And Jewish schools have made headlines offering safe haven to Jewish students in public schools who are feeling unsafe due to the unprecedented rise of anti-Semitism within those schools. One might say almost fully to blame for that is the Teachers' Union in Victoria, as well as the New South Wales Teachers Federation. We've seen those movements rising up, and kids are monkey see, monkey do. Leonard Hayne, Executive Director of the Australian Council of Jewish Schools, was in the Oz today. He said, in light of the attitude of the Public Teachers Union, we can expect the level of anti-Semitic bullying in public schools to increase further, and consequently an increase in the feeling of insecurity among Jewish students in public schools. We are informing our community that if the student at a government or independent school at the moment is feeling uncomfortable with the circumstances, Jewish schools will do whatever they can in order to accommodate them and to ensure the fee is affordable. Strength to your arm, Leonard. Good on them. Look after yourselves, because God knows this government is not going to. They did nothing about the Opera House saga. They did nothing as tens of thousands marched through major cities yelling from the river to the sea, which is a genocidal slogan. They did nothing as these kids left state schools and marched with state teachers. They did nothing as those same state teachers then started their own movements. And now, as you alluded to at the top of the show, Mac, we've got them doing absolutely nothing about these hate preachers saying, oh, actually, telling people to kill Jews turns out doesn't meet the level of criminality in order to prosecute. I mean, it's just shameful. The Jewish community in Australia is now having to self-segregate in order to protect their kids. Who thought we would ever see this day? But again, it is because of the weak leadership in this country, because on every single one of those above counts, the governments have done nothing, state and federal.
And they're doing the right thing here. You know, they're offering an opportunity of potentially lower fees and whatever to offer safety to Jewish students. The saddest part is that that needs to be done in the first place. And we talked last night about a story that Shari broke exclusively on her program last night about a couple of Jewish students who were at a food court in Sydney and had food thrown at them and were taunted with slogans and images and whatever. Like the idea that we are living in 2023 in Australia and looking at this kind of racism, this kind of anti-Semitism, and nothing is done about it. When we said never again in relation to the Holocaust, we've just totally forgotten it.
I agree with you. This story is to our country's shame that this has to happen. Back in the day, kids were completely oblivious to their teachers' politics, and teachers were respectful enough to hide their politics. But these days, despite the rules of employment, it seems like every other teacher is an activist. I'm not Jewish, but I would send my kids to a Jewish school every day of the week over a public school. At least at a Jewish school, they're not going to be indoctrinated with pro-Palestinian propaganda. They're not going to be brainwashed by gender fairies. And this highlights the importance also of private schools and faith-based schools, which the left want to defund or close down. But I repeat myself, if you don't have faith-based schools, private schools, where does Anne Frank hide?
And also homeschooling. I mean, people forget state schooling is actually the experiment. For centuries, everyone homeschooled. That is how kids learnt. And they were a hell of a lot smarter than they are today, might I say, after 12 years in these institutions where they are brainwashed. They're just turned into the perfect mini-Marxists, weak-minded, no critical thinking, can barely read or write, because that is a controllable population. You can disagree with me, but I believe that is deliberate. Because why are our children getting dumber when we're so progressive? We're in this technology age. We should be the smartest human beings to ever grace the face of the planet, but we don't even know how to go 5 minutes to a cafe without using maps. We don't know a jolly thing. Our brains don't remember it. We've got to Google it all. And these kids that are homeschooled, stats show, look this up, don't struggle with the same things. They simply don't, because they get a lot more one-on-one teaching, and as long as they're well socialised, they don't suffer as a result. I'm a big proponent of homeschooling, and there's a reason why the state, even here in Australia, is trying to make it harder and harder for parents to homeschool, because the state wants your kids. You don't get to indoctrinate them, we do.
Look, I think homeschooling has its benefits, but all the parents end up in therapy. That's the problem.
That is not true. That is not true.
I'm joking.
No, because that is one of the very common misconceptions about homeschooling, that, you know, mum's actually sitting there like telling little Johnny. That's ridiculous. My mum had 7 kids, and at one point, most of us were homeschooled. The rest were too young to have started. You literally have your own paces. You have your own books. You can read and write, and your mum's nowhere to be seen. She's off doing her own thing. And again, it is great for kids because they can get ahead if they're really intelligent. They can speed through grades. And it, again, develops that you're not being spoon-fed everything. Just sit there, say nothing for hours on end, and you've got the teacher up the front telling you, no, these kids are totally autonomous. It's wonderful.